In this episode of the Texas Private School Podcast, Second Baptist gets sweet revenge on Fort Bend Christian. Also continues their dominant undefeated season. The Dallas Christian dynasty survives another week. Holy Cross continues to roll along, and Brazos Christian moves on to a state championship duel with Dallas First Baptist. All this and more in the semifinal review of the Texas Private School Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Texas Private School Podcast. I, as always, am one-third of your hosting crew, Wes Tolleson, calling in with a bit of a raspy and kind of dead voice from a sporting event that I will not mention that took place Saturday night. Walker Lott calls in from the place that I was at that I won't mention. And Ryan Schroeder calls in from north of the Red River in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Gentlemen, a fantastic weekend in sports in general, especially Texas private school football. Walker Lott, not not great in the collegiate ranks, but we continue to press on.
I mean, it was great besides a game that happened in Texas yesterday, like everything else was a pretty good week. A lot of fights. Rivalry week is so back. Yeah, there's a lot of things in College Station that I wish I could turn back time and play things differently, but we can't, and that's football. And I'll have to hear about it for the next year. But this is what rivalries are. But other than that, great week. A lot of good games in high school football, especially in Texas high school football. We'll talk about all eight here today. And yeah, not much more to say.
Not much more. Ryan Schroeder, a fantastic previous week of action. How are things in your neck of the woods? And any thoughts on the last few games in Texas private school ball?
No, it's been good. It's been good. Glad I'm here for a recap episode. So much crazy stuff has been happening on these Sundays that we record on. So somehow, some way, I made it. But yeah, no, it was good. It was good. Obviously, the pick record wise, took a shot in the dark and it stabbed me a little bit. But other than that, overall, really happy with how the games went this weekend. As we'll talk about later, pretty chalk across the board.
Pretty chalk, yeah. Regarding the pick record, after winning the previous 2 years, I'm going to finish last this year. So
Yeah.
that's the way the cookie
Yeah.
crumbles. I'll follow my sword.
Oh my goodness. Gosh, man. Roll the tape. Roll the tape, man. Roll the tape. Roll all the time he was saying all that smack. Gosh, it feels good.
I don't know how much
Uh,
smack there was. I think I just said I'd come back eventually, and it just never quite materialized.
yeah, I'm gonna need a Jordy edit of every single thing that you said wrong in order. TikTok, I'm gonna need a TikTok editor to just every single time you're gonna win and then put the final pick record right here. That's what I want.
I'm still the only two-time for the next couple weeks. I'm still the only two-time winner in TXPS pick record history. And if Walker wins it, I'm still the only two-time winner.
Okay.
What are you
All right.
pointing at? You've
No,
never won it
I
twice.
already
He
have
won
a
the
ring
first
at the
year. Yeah,
moment. I
he won
have
the
a
first
ring.
year.
I know,
I
but then
have
I
a
won the next two.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. All right.
We'll
All
see.
right.
That's just that's a lot of copium from me just trying to come to terms with finishing last. It's not sitting well, but I will distract myself by pulling up the TXPS Media football scoreboard that we will go through and review. Yet again, we covered four out of these eight games, so we will speak briefly on the four that we didn't cover and give quick bullet point thoughts. The first
We,
being Parish Episcopal beating Frisco Legacy 42-7. About what was expected. Now, Ryan Schroeder, we had a beef conversation before in the preview episode that you were kind of upset that we didn't preview this game. We did Covenant and Holy Cross. Well, Covenant lost Holy Cross 41-14. So we kind of could have chosen either game. It doesn't really matter technically. Covenant Holy Cross was a little bit closer, but any thoughts on the stuff before the show and then now Parish kind of thumping Legacy?
I mean, I'm repping Eagle Pride till the end, so just trying to show the respect to what a great season it was. We were never supposed to be in a position to make the semifinals in D1 in our first year, so I'm really, really proud of that. Injury wise, losing a quarterback halfway through the year, really sad about that. But to go back on what I said, I'm pretty sure y'all are right. That probably what didn't need to be previewed. But overall, glad it was a great season. Great season for Legacy. Lots to be proud about, and looking forward to the future of Frisco Legacy football.
No, it definitely was. Walker, any thoughts?
No, absolutely. I think that's a great way to put it. And I think Frisco Legacy is a good team. I think I'm excited about Luke Lawrence next year.
Yeah.
Supposedly they have a couple guys coming in that I heard about on San Antonio, and it's going to be a good time when you have when you're the top team in the Frisco area. That is going to build a lot of excitement, and they have a lot of homegrown kids, yes, and that's what they're going to be good with. But I think if they get a couple guys here and there just to compete in Division 1, man, the sky's the limit for this team. I love Doug Hex. I love that program.
There's
Yeah, definitely
14
so.
public schools, bro. 14 public schools. That's all I'm gonna say in
Yep.
Frisco. That's all I'm gonna
That
say.
that is absolutely wild. But moving on to the other Division 1 game, Argyle Liberty and St. Thomas. Now you can see why this game wasn't previewed because it came out maybe even worse than we expected. Liberty beat St. Thomas 63 to nothing. Our friends at LSCSN put up a stat that said this is the largest margin of victory in a TAPS Division 1 semifinal in the 33 years of the four division setup from 1992 to 2024. It is also the first shutout in TAPS Division 1 semifinal since 2009 when Addison Trinity Christian blanked Lynch 30 to nothing. Um, and the craziest thing is, it's not surprising at all. We all pretty much knew this was coming. I might have said something more like 42 to 7, 63 to nothing is insane, but that's how good this Liberty team is. I'm not saying they're going to beat Parish that badly. And I think if you were to say that, you'd be crazy. I still think the line would probably be about 14 points going to the title game. Walker Lott, Liberty does what we expect them to do. Any thoughts, comments, concerns?
No, I mean that's kind of what you expected, right? Like it's sad because you want more competitive high school, especially semifinal games. But I mean, if you even think about it, there are a lot of games in UIL that are just, if you're on one side of the bracket, like for the example, right? Like North Shore and all those teams would have to face like the San Antonio teams in the semifinals in UIL, and it's kind of not maybe not this bad, but pretty dang close. So like this happens all the time. It sucks to see, especially because there's only, 4 rounds in total, but it is what it is. And, like we said, the north, the deep, the South in Division 1 has to just get better. And also, oh, you know what? I'll say this. I think there's, I texted Ryan about this in our group chat. I think private school needs to be put into 2 categories. And this is just for like, not really in general, but like, I think there's in general 2 categories: elite in normal private schools. There is the elite, the Liberties, the Parishes, the Prestonwoods. And then there was normal schools, like this was St. Thomas last year was in the elite, but a normal private school, St. Thomas. A couple Division 1 guys, some great high school football players that are going to maybe go play D2 football, but nothing huge. That's a typical private school team. That's what it should be. Then you have Parish and you have Liberty, right? Those are the elites, right? When you have multiple Division 1 guys, that's where it kind of, is a little bit different. So I can't knock St. Thomas, right? Like they're a normal private school team, but you just can't compete unless you're in that elite category with a team like Liberty.
Yeah, it's kind of like whenever Grace met Liberty in the quarterfinals last year, and you're just looking at the game and you're just like normal private school, not even like to the level that St. Thomas is at a D1 school. But it's like normal private school, absolute killing machine.
Right.
It's like coughing baby versus hydrogen bomb. Like you pretty
Right.
much know the outcome like before it's set. Ryan Schroeder, I don't know how much more needs to be added to this, but anything that sticks out to you from Liberty just weed whacking St. Thomas.
I mean, I was watching the game. There's really not much more to comment on what you can see from what I was watching. But the one thing I was gonna say, me and Walker got on the space right after, and you know, I am of the opinion that it has to be based on something. So number of kids at a school makes the most sense. That's how classifications are born across all sports. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That maybe classification should be different across different sports and stuff. I mean, it is kind of crazy that the schools like Liberty get to compete, then Trinity Christian Cedar Hill and all those schools. But it's also like, you know, if they compete one year and then all the guys leave the next year, like examples like who went from being really good to really bad. Give me a quick example. Who was really, really good and went really, really
Uh,
bad?
I mean, St.
Done.
Thomas, you can talk about that, I guess.
Yeah, or
No, Dun's a perfect example.
yeah, just but like, and so that's the example, right? Like, you don't know how they're going to be the next year, and if they end up being really bad, so I can't fault anyone for the way things are set up at the moment. There's nothing really you can do, but just interesting to think
And
how these
here's
games
the
are never
thing.
close.
And if you zoom out long enough, like I don't this feels like it's getting philosophic, but eras come and go. Like as
Right.
good as Liberty is now, they're probably and it could be 2 years, 5 years, it could be a decade, but eventually things will shift. And we complain about, it's you're suffering from success, but we will see tides turn eventually. I don't really want to get into Plato and
That's
Socrates
poetic.
right now, but we will move along into the last game that we didn't preview in depth, which is Central Texas Christian at Dallas First Baptist. First Baptist wins 54-21. But this game, I had it on right when I got down to College Station. I had it on for a little while, and this was close for a little while. And then Mark Racing realized, oh, I'm Mark Racing. I'm better than almost everyone else on the field, and that's kind of how the game turned. Walker, still, yeah, I'll say it's a decent showing by Central Texas Christian, who we all thought was outmatched. He'll put up 21 points. Holding First Baptist under 60 is kind of like holding Liberty under 60. You got
Yep.
to tip your cap. Anything that stuck out to you here?
I think it's definitely interesting that it was that close at the beginning, right? It was that thing where, then and this is going to be the kind of the story for the next game for them, right? And we'll talk about it in a second. First Baptist wins big when they're big time dudes made big time plays, right? So if somehow Brazos Christian can hold them from the big time plays, it could be competitive and they play physical. Central Texas just didn't have the guys to compete, right? Like on offense, you don't have a Mark Rayson, you don't have a Quincy Reams, you do not have a Caleb Mitchell. By the way, shout out Caleb Mitchell, that was an insane one handed catch. But like you need guys to compete with First Baptist, right? They just don't, and that's what hurts. So. We'll see. Shout out to Central Texas, 10-2 on the year. What a season! But they don't like I said, elite normal private school team for Division 4.
Definitely so. Ryan Schroeder, the elite team gets the victory in the spot. Any thoughts, comments, concerns?
Absolutely nothing. I mean, I don't really see anything different than what we've already known. Kind of just goes into my chalk explanation of everything, just how things are rolling.
That it is. So, with that scoreboard recap concluded, we will now jump into the 5 games of the week that we previewed in depth in the previous episode. We're going to start with Fort Bend Christian versus Second Baptist, where Second Baptist ends the Fort Bend run of destiny with a 35-16 win to knock the Eagles of Fort Bend out of the playoffs. This was a 21-10 game at the half. And then second, push it out to 35-10. That's when you realize this game's probably wraps. Second Baptist stats in terms of passing, Cannon Toome threw 2 touchdowns, both to Alan Thomas. Toon also rushed for 2 more touchdowns. Bryce Butler rushed for 1. So it's kind of the familiar faces making the plays. In terms of Fort Bend, Cole Whidden threw a touchdown. Luke Deanda also threw a touchdown. No rushing touchdowns. And then Blake Hamilton had a receiving touchdown as well as Talon Abraham. So this basically was simply a display of dominance by the Second Baptist defense, as well as a masterclass by Cannon Toon, who's seeming to get better and better as games go on. I was watching clips that Bradley Hanna, our intern, was posting. Shout out to Bradley for covering the game. And he's doing the same thing as he was doing, early in the season in the past couple years, where it seems like, a defender has a play on him. He's got him wrapped up, and Cannon Toon's like, no, I really don't feel like being tackled yet, and spins out of it and makes a play. It's like clockwork. It's like Ryan watching the end of the Second Baptist St. John's game, where it's like, oh, the game's over. Cannon Toon's like, no, it's not quite over yet. Walker, I want to say that I turned to you after, I think it was like the week after Fort Bend beat Second Baptist. And I was like, if Fort Bend and Second Baptist play again, I'm taking Second Baptist. And I was like, I don't really have a great explanation for that. It's a gut feeling, but I'm going to do it. I stuck to my guns. I took them no matter how badly that game scared me, because I typically don't bet against Fort Bend in the playoffs. But your thoughts on Second Baptist getting the win where it matters?
Yeah, when we heard guys were out and like guys like Tyler Curry, and you were kind of like, yeah, this might not go their way. Uh, the pick was easy, right? But
Yeah.
you got to give credit to first Fort Bend. They played hard. I think they were on another quarterback in this one too. Like I think a third quarterback in this game. Like they fight through adversity like always, and you got to give them credit. No one really thought after week 4 that they were going to be in the semifinals. Like it's a testament to their team. It's a testament to their culture. Shout out to those guys. But on the flip side, we kind of knew Second Baptist. Like with a coaching staff like they have and the players that they do, you knew they were not going to come out flat another time again in a big time game like this. You knew they had the chance, they had the mindset to make it to Waco. After I saw them against Fort Worth Christian, I told a couple of the guys, I said, "All right, guys, I'll see you in Waco," and that's exactly what's going to happen here. So, big win for them. It proves why they're one of the most talented, most disciplined teams in the state. Just very, very impressive.
Definitely. So Ryan Schroeder, Second Baptist, gets the big win to move on to the state title game. Your thoughts?
I mean, I'm a Eagle tried and true now at this point. I'm sorry I didn't have the hat last week. I'm very thankful that I have it now. But overall, just it was an absolutely incredible performance. It goes back to what I've been saying this entire time that I really thought Second Baptist was the better team this entire time. Like even Wes said the second time around, he thought they were going to win. Um, just yeah, first time around, Fort Bend caught the best of them, and then you spin it twice. Hard to beat a team twice. And it looks like Second Baptist won when it mattered most. So, shout out Cannon too, and shout out the rest of the guys, Alan Thomas and company. Eagle Pride never dies. It's an Eagle party, and they're bringing the Eagle party to Waco.
Oh, I could go the rest of my life without hearing the words Eagle Party. Next game, this was Austin Regents
No,
versus Fort Worth All Saints. Walker, you were at this game in McGregor, Texas. What'd you see? And looks like All Saints is continuing a dominant season.
Yeah, I woke up early on Friday after Thanksgiving and I went down to McGregor, got some Dutch Bros hot chocolate, and just drove down. I left my house, it was 37. I then got into the game. When the game started, I had just a t-shirt on. Like that's how the Texas just flipped, of course, right?
Yep.
But yeah, I went out to McGregor to see the battle for a chance to make the TAPS D2 title game of All Saints and Regents. Shout out to the Letterman's Club for the breakfast tacos before the game. Loved that. It reminded me of old Saturday morning film with the breakfast tacos, so that was kind of fun. But finally getting to the game, this was the battle of one of the most disciplined teams in TXPS versus one of the most talented teams. A team of guys who have grown up through the program versus a team of a lot of transfers, right? And I told some dads before the game, I put the line at All Saints 13 and a half. That was kind of just in my mind. That's probably what I would have put it. That absolutely changed in my mind when I found out star sophomore quarterback Jack Devine would be out in this one for Regents. Monumental thing. We didn't really know anything about it, and when I heard about this, that was huge. He got injured in the Midland game the week before and tried to practice the week of, and it couldn't work. And it was a massive loss for the Knights as maybe one of the top gunslingers, maybe the top gunslinger in TXPS for sophomores would be gone. But when it's Regents, you know someone's going to step up, and that was going to be current tight end and former quarterback Bobby Long, who, of course, was the younger brother of star quarterback Wilson Long, who led the Knights to multiple title games during the TCCH game era. Um, what a player back in the day for him. I think he was committed to Tech when Kingsbury was there. When Kingsbury left, he had to go some other places. I think he went into I think Vanderbilt, where else? I think he went to some other places, but Princeton, I think, started out. But what a player back in the day. Um, and for a man who barely played quarterback these past couple years, he did not look at it at all and kept Regents in the fight this entire time. It started when they went down the entire way, all the way to the 98-yard line, but All Saints' defense held strong on their own 2-yard line. Uh, and that kind of just gave too much space because Gavin Parkhurst gets the quarterback keeper on his own 2-yard line and takes it 98 yards to the house on the first play. And there was a couple back and forth in the first half. They would score, they would score. But the kind of the story of the game was just talent. And the depth and the talent for the Saints was kind of on full display, as knew that they could hurt Regents anytime with just one play. An offensive line full of grown men, which I wanted to shout out: Ian Bothwell, Kwame Osei, Hudson Dalton, Arik Adcock, Jax Thomas, and Barrett Bray. They led the way for the offense on a strong day on the ground for Cole Powell Freeman and Bork Toller, with a dominant day by Quante Williams, who was truly insane and truly could not be stopped at all. Like, at all. Like, truly could not be stopped at all. I think 3 touchdowns and one of them being insane enough to make it on You Got Moss again for us. Shout out to Cormonte and Gavin for that. Woke up to that this morning. That was pretty cool. So truly, it would be screens, go balls, fade routes. Just Regents couldn't stop the Boise State commit. Unreal. And then you combine that with Hudson Reeser and Bryce Anderson, who made two of the best catches I've seen this year, showing again why this team is one of the deepest and most talented teams in TXPS. Defensively, this was a team full of elite athletes led today by Jacob Maynor, the Army commit, who just was dominant at the line of scrimmage. Multiple sacks, I think. Caden Richardson, who had multiple picks, and TCU commit Blake Robinette led that great defensive line and held one of the best offenses in TXPS to only 26 points. The Saints have a foundation of a championship mindset from their days, right, in SPC, but they are now officially 1 win away from winning their first ever in TAPS, and it's going to be exciting to see. Shout out to Regents though, who gave All Saints probably their best challenge so far in Division Two this year. Guys like Ryan Ches, Roman Patson, Cade Millington, Blake Smith, and especially Bobby Long held their own to make this one of the better games I've seen. I really want to give some shout out to Bobby Long. To step in to this game in a game where, think about it, right? What's the last biggest game of Regents this season last year? They were without Quinn Murphy in that one too. Back to back big time games without their starting quarterback. And you, for a guy, I know he played like, I think he took a couple snaps over the season, but it was kind of like fourth quarter, just, that type of thing. Never live practice snaps the entire season. He gets in there and dude, it was just impressive. The ball, like there's some dimes in this game by him. His ability at 6'4" to use his legs really well. It's so impressive. And a guy I'm guessing that grew up with his brother being this guy at Regents, that he is the quarterback at Regents, being able to step into his kind of like those steps again as the younger brother in a big time game and giving it his all, man. All the power to you. That I can't give you more credit. I can give you all the credit I can because he absolutely deserves it. How he played in this game was very, very impressive. Limited notice. It's just impressive, man. So shout out to Regents, but shout out to All Saints getting the win. A tough game, a physical game, and they get out at McGregor with the win and move on to play Second Baptist.
Dude, I keep watching this play by Bobby Long with about 5 minutes left in the first quarter to tie the game up, where he's rolling out to his right on the run, hits Roman Patson for that 75-yard touchdown. That's a quarterback. That's a quarterback making that play. I mean, that doesn't look like a tight end in the slightest.
No, not at all.
It's an incredible play. You do have to tip your cap, and you bring up the really good point is the last 2 games that Regents was eliminated in, they don't have their starting quarterback. And you never want to do what if, but that does hurt. And for a program as good as Regents, you feel like they don't deserve to go out like that. But that's the beautiful thing about football is it's impartial and it does not care what position you're in. I've also got to give a shout out to what I think is the heartbeat of this All Saints team. It doesn't get talked about enough, but you mentioned them obviously is their offensive line between Kwame Osei, Ian Bothwell, Hudson Dalton. I mean, and you're going back and watching these clips that Walker posted in the flow of the game, and across almost every single one, they are manhandling that front. I mean, it's a good chance it's the best offensive line in TXPS. Now you're realizing, why All Saints can do so many different things offensively and why they're undefeated up to this point. It's going to be really fun to see how they fare against Bryce Butler and company in the state championship game, but we will save that for further analysis in the preview. Ryan Schroeder, Fort Worth All Saints moves along. Any thoughts, comments, concerns?
Honestly, just like impressive season for All Saints, really. I mean, truly, it's been exactly what you would have expected when you saw them beat Parish and Prestwood week 1 and week 2, right? I mean, that's off rip. We saw a strong start, and it really hasn't let up off the gas. I've seen them basically beat every team. I've seen them beat every team I want them to beat, besides probably Liberty and Kincaid. Those are the only 2 teams that they really haven't played in order to prove their dominance as like the best team in private school. But bro, Second Baptist, that's right up there with it. Right up there with it. I mean, All Saints is about to have a really, really good all-time TAP season in the grand scheme of things. Very impressive what they've got going on down there. And like I said, All Saints just has guys, man. They have a lot of guys, a lot of really good guys, and Second Baptist has some dudes as well. But we'll talk about it when you see the preview episode on Thursday. But it's gonna be an impressive game for sure in Waco.
No, I definitely think so. One of many impressive teams to make it to Waco. We see another one make it out of Division 3, where Dallas Christian narrowly survives the scare from Lubbock Christian as quarterback Luke Carney deflects the final Hail Mary to push Dallas Christian to their fifth straight state title game. DC made it a point of emphasis to pound the rock in this one, rushing on almost 70% of their possessions for 284 yards as Carney goes for 168 and Muse 110 with 3 and 2 touchdowns respectively. Senior Jalen Gray eclipsed the century mark receiving with 113 yards, and Lubbock Christian quarterback Welker Horn ends his high school career on a high note with at least 4 touchdowns on the contest and 4 2-point conversions, taking the DC dynasty down to the wire in the state semifinals. Gentlemen, I said that I was going to be keeping an eye on the scores of each of the Division 3 semifinals, and we'll zoom out on what this score means after we recap Holy Cross's 41-14 victory over Covenant Christian. But before we get to that, Walker, we had spoken about, we know Lubbock Christian's good. We don't know quite how good, and DC will tell us that. Well, it appears the answer is pretty daggum good, and Welker Horn just has an incredible performance in his final high school game. Any thoughts with Lubbock Christian really pushing DC to the brink here?
Dude, it was unbelievable. I was watching this game at home. I had a triple screen of this game, the Holy Cross game, and the Brazos Christian game at home on Friday, or on Friday, and it was just awesome. It was unbelievable. Uh, Welker Horn and this team was just they did everything they could, man. And a team uh, that were physical. They fought hard, and it was to the point where they scored, got the onside, and it was a Hail Mary away from winning this game, man. I really want to talk about Kearney and Muse, though, because watching that game, they could not be stopped in the run game, and that's credit to their offensive line. But in a team, right, where you had Will Nettles and a couple guys last year where you would think they would pass it more, no, it's Luke Carney and Titus Muse show all the time, and they ran it down their throats, and they just couldn't stop. It was the type of thing where they would score easy. Lubbock Christian would drive down the field and score, but it would just take more time, more energy. And that was kind of the basis of the game, because when you have a Syracuse commit, you have a guy who was, long ago offered by SMU. These are weapons that just other teams in Division 3 just don't have, right? And so big win for them. This was a team, right, where we had a lot of doubts. They went 2-2 in their first 4 games, and you were like, "What is this Dallas Christian team?" Because yeah, they're the 3-time state straight champions, right? Are they the same team? No, they're not. They don't have a Speedy Knowles, but what they do have is Luke Carney and the rest of this offensive line and Titus Muse, and they're gonna fight whoever they come against, right? It's the Mike Wheeler way. You're going to play tough physical football, and we're going to hit you in the mouth and see if you respond. And so, shout out to them. That's a big win over a team that we thought was going to really compete, and they did.
Definitely so. And that's, I think, a good thing about DC, which you might think that, you might think like is not a great sign that they're in this close of a game, like they should have killed Lubbock Christian. I think the flip side of this argument is now DC understands what it's like to be pushed. And you can't even count that Prestonwood game just
No.
because they beat them so badly. But a team that's, kind of on par with you from a skill standpoint. And like one final big test before Holy Cross. And I think an underrated storyline from this is I don't know the last time DC went, I mean, especially a title game, definitely not in any of the past 5 years, being the underdog and being able to have Mike Wheeler, who's probably one of the great motivators in the sport, get them to use that underdog chip. I think it's going to be an incredibly interesting storyline. I wouldn't want to play Dallas Christian when they all think they're the underdog, but Holy Cross seems well equipped to do that. Ryan Schroeder, Lubbock Christian, narrowly falls to Dallas Christian in this one. Any thoughts on the contest?
I spoke on this on the space, and I'm glad those from Lubbock Christian that were there got to hear it too. It was one of those things where like I obviously thought they were gonna win. That's why I picked them. But like Dallas Christian's been the favorite, all season long. Obviously then Holy Cross comes in the picture, and we start talking about Holy Cross having this really good dynamic and being the true favorites because Dallas Christian just keeps sneaking by. But Dallas Christian keeps sneaking by. Like it really is just they know how to win when it matters. Luke Carney knows how to win. Broke the record and stuff too. Like Luke Carney into himself is a winner. This team in total is winner, is a winner mentality. Mike Wheeler is a winner. Like I don't think the problem we're really focusing on is the fact that like the team is worse than they've ever been, but like it doesn't matter. They still win games. Obviously, we're gonna see this Holy Cross matchup that we've been looking forward to all year long on Friday. Um, but from a perspective of how I've seen things right now, that's exactly how I wanted Lubbock Christian to play. It was a great, great game. Welker Horn and company. It's just exactly how you have to play a Dallas Christian team like that. And Dallas Christian was ready. They showed exactly what they needed to do to prove that. Like you said, the run game, just taking whatever means necessary to win this game. When in reality, um, for maybe one of the first times ever, Dallas Christian's going to enter a state championship being the underdog, which is just like it's kind of a wild thought, dude. Dallas Christian and Parish are going to enter state championships being underdogs. That's crazy, but that's the world we live in.
Those are the two teams that spawned the Will They Cover segment that were so dadgum good that we couldn't even justify covering their games, so we had to give them their own segment.
Yep.
That goes back to my point I made with Liberty, is that when you're in like the middle of these DC and Parish dynasties, you're like, these will never end. Even Trinity Christian, like this will go on forever. And eventually, the tides turn and things change. But it's cool to see the sport just kind of slowly change to see new blood come in. But speaking of new blood, I said I would get to it. That is Colleyville Covenant versus Holy Cross. Holy Cross completely dominated every facet of this game. They got out to a 41 to nothing lead and only allowing a single offensive touchdown to a team that was averaging only over 30 points per game. In terms of scoring, Gibby threw for a touchdown. Nick Hall was the receiver on that one. And then the Knights mostly made their money rushing the ball this evening. Louis Lopez had one touchdown. Gibby Alvarado had one touchdown on the ground. And then Taylor Flores had three, whereas there really wasn't anything that Holy Cross did that wasn't working. They're just such a complete team. That leads me to say, I don't think there's a single weakness on this team. From the front seven to the secondary to the backfield to the receivers to the offensive line, this could be pound for pound one of the most complete teams we've ever seen in TXPS. The more I watch them week in and week out, the more that I say stats on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, I do not see a weakness. And I'm not saying they're as good as 2022 Parish. I'm saying pound for pound, as good as we've like seen in Division 3, even as good as all those DC teams were that blitzed through Division 3. I think this Holy Cross team has the potential to be up there with some of the best we've seen in the division. But they're still a game away from the goal. Back to my point at the end of the DC preview. I stated that if DC and Lubbock Christian were in a close game and Holy Cross absolutely blitzed Covenant, my state predictions might be set. Walker, I'm curious to hear if you have a similar opinion. I know I just said it might be a good thing that DC got tested. I still think, I'm not going to give away my prediction, but I am kind of give it away. I'm probably going to pencil in Holy Cross here, just a lot because of the scores I saw in the semifinal round. Should we be using these scores to kind of inform our predictions for state?
I think you absolutely should for like a media sense, right? Like I think you should look at these scores and be like, okay, this is kind of the thing. I would say this is the best. I'm gonna put out a tweet in a little bit and talk about this, but I think this is the best storyline of the entire slate. I think it's this one. The rematch of last year's state, and it's the winningest team in Taps's history. I think 14 what was it? Yeah, they've won 11 titles in Taps, the most in Taps history, versus a team with their first ever title or on the horizon, and they're the favorites. This is a complete switch of normal things for this game, right? Last year, Holy Cross were the big underdogs. They came in the underdogs and they hit them in the mouth and they gave them all they had. This is the difference. They're the better team. They can't go into this game. This is, by the way, this is absolutely rat poison for everyone down in San Antonio. But from a media sense, we have to talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
they're the favorites, and it's going to be hard to have that mindset of we're the underdogs, we're all this when you are probably a 2 touchdown favorite in this, which is insane. That's going to be the difference part. And like you said, is it going to be different of a Dallas Christian team where they're officially the underdog in a game they play, which I don't think they've been the underdog in a game they play. Prestonwood game excused, but in Division Three ever. So very, very interesting.
Ryan Schroeder, kind of the same question to you. Obviously, Holy Cross has a dominant performance here. DC kind of gets in a knife fight. Should that affect how we look at our state title predictions?
No, because I think this is what we've had all year, right? Like I don't think changing the margin of victory in my head truly changes the way I'm going to see this game. Because ironically, this might be one of the closer games out of all of them, to be completely fair. Obviously say what you want about Liberty Parish, say what you want about, All Saints Second Baptist. Um, those games will be somewhat close, but this is truly the one that's the closest, in my opinion, on paper. Um, and so, in my opinion, I don't think I put a full spread on this because currently, how I see things, I think it's closer. And like I said when I just recapped DC's winners. They are winners. They find a way to win no matter what. So, in my opinion, I don't think what we just saw out of DC could really tell me the margin of what I think Holy Cross will win by, but like we all just kind of stated, that really is where the favorite is at the moment.
Yeah, I definitely think that it is. Again, we will have a full preview up on this in your feeds Thursday evening. But before we wrap this one up, we have the last Division Four semifinal to go through. This is Waco Live Oak versus Brazos Christian. And the Eagles of Brazos Christian advanced to the state championships in Waco following a 31-13 victory over Waco Live Oak. This was a 10-0 game for Brazos Christian into the third, but they widened that gap to 24-0 into the fourth quarter behind an impressively balanced offensive performance. Sophomore quarterback Cooper Murr passed for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns, both to familiar suspect Jackson Caffey, as he and Truett Godike also scored rushing touchdowns. Senior offensive and defensive lineman Ben Tillery amassed 8 tackles, all of which were solo, and 2 tackles for loss. That, for a defensive lineman, is a crazy stat. As senior Brody Gardner and sophomore Jack Williams each also had 2 sacks, and Caffey came up with an interception to round out an elite defensive effort, which has really become Brazos Christian's calling card in the midst of this undefeated seasoning. And I'm saying this while they're averaging almost 40 points per game. They will advance to meet 11-1 First Baptist in the state title game this week in Waco. Walker, Brazos Christian has pretty much proven from the onset of the season that they are the representative in the South. We knew that pretty early on. They have done nothing but solidify that. There were several games that could have served as trap games. They could have gotten tripped up, and Coach Washington hasn't let those guys fall into that trap. And now they're on the precipice of an undefeated state championship season. But there is a large boulder in the way of that in the form of Dallas First Baptist. We're not going to get into previewing that game,
Yeah.
but I want to hear your thoughts on this Eagles team moving up to this point. Guys that we've seen forever, although in different positions. Caffey was the guy at quarterback for a while.
I would love to talk about Caffey for a little bit because he was unbelievable in this one. And I think he also had an interception in this one. Like you said, like this was a game from Cappy. And everyone I talked to, like he had a 70-yard QB keeper wildcat, just big touchdown run. Like he was the player in the game in this one. And for a guy like that, where his freshman and sophomore year, he looked like he was going to be the guy at quarterback. Maybe all the way to junior year, like he was going to be the guy at quarterback. And a guy like Cooper Murr comes along, and you have to go. You know what? Okay, I'll move to a different position. I'll make my impact there, and he's absolutely done that. That's a testament to him, testament to his mindset, and just it's a testament to his character. Like that's what you want in a teammate. And what he brings to this table athletically on both sides of the ball is probably even more important. They needed a weapon like him out there. Like it's so impactful for guys like Caffey and Goodike and guys like are gonna make different plays. It's very, very impressive. Even Brody Garner is playing offense and defensive line for this team. Like in a Division 4, you're gonna play both ways. You need guys who can be impactful in both ways. And so guys like we've seen forever, like Goodike, Caffey, and Garner, like those guys, Tillery, like those guys have been making their impact for years now, and it's finally rewarding them in a state title appearance. So shout out to those guys. It's been awesome watching y'all grow up in one last ride with those dudes. So and I think, and we'll not preview it a little bit, but I want to say like the difference between Brazos Christian and Central Texas is I think they have guys, like they have dudes that can play football. And I think guys like Cooper Murr, Goodeye, Caffey, and others, they can make an impact in a game no matter who they're facing. So it's gonna be fun to watch.
When you say guys that can play football,
Look, when I mean that, I mean like guys who can go play college football.
okay.
That's what I mean. I like there's two or three on Central Texas. I think there's a good more on this Waco or Brazos Christian team.
Yeah, no, definitely so. I do think it's obviously a better matchup. Um, for I think it's a more competitive game if Brazos Christian's in that spot versus Texas Christian. That's not really saying anything that anyone doesn't know because Brazos, beat Central Texas already this season. Ryan Schroeder, the another Eagle party for you to speak on. Brazos Christian advances, has not lost a game yet, and will see themselves in a very interesting matchup with Dallas First Baptist here shortly. Thoughts on the Eagles' undefeated season up to this point?
So many Eagle parties, geez, man. And my school didn't have an Eagle party, which is okay.
Well,
Um,
they had a few Eagle parties up to
they actually they had a good amount of Eagle parties. No, I mean this is just a great year for Brazos Christian. The one team they haven't faced is the team they'll see in the state championship. But yeah, it truly proved that they were the second best team by going 12-0 and really going through all of the competition. Obviously, making sure they got that win over Central Texas Christian to prove that they were the second spot in total. And then and then they just really ran through the rest of their slate. Waco Live Oak obviously being a very, very, very talented team in their first year of 11-man football. We've said that all year long. It speaks volumes to making the semifinals, but nothing else I really have to say. I'm really excited to see what Brazos Brazos, I made it the whole year, made it. Brazos Christian can do against First Baptist on Friday afternoon. There you go.
I was about to say, I think the most impressive part of your growth in this program is you went basically an entire year of now pronouncing Brazos Christian the correct way, which
I
I
think
have to
it's pretty good.
I have to salute you for that. It warms my heart to see. But that being said, that actually concludes all of the content for the episode. I feel like whenever we said we were splitting the episodes into two, that we all had the idea that it would take half the time to record them. And I feel like now we're just basically recording two full-length episodes every week. But it's more content for the people. If we didn't like doing it, we certainly wouldn't still be doing it. I'll just take a quick second to say yet again, thank you to everyone that continues to watch. It still blows me away going in person. I know Walker got it this week as well. There's always at least, 5 or 6 people that are like, thank you for doing what you do. We love doing it. We're like, we love that you watch. We wouldn't continue to make it if nobody watched. Walker.
Speaking of that, there was a guy that I talked to you and you know who you are, and that told us that he sent it to our preview on this game to his college buddy.
Hmm.
Um, and he sent it to him and he's like, dude, and like he's a college coach for football or basketball. And he said, dude, this is awesome. Like we need this for our school, like for the teams we play. And like
That's
this is
funny.
sick that they do a great job. And that was really cool to hear about that. And it meant a lot being like, hey, like what we always say, right? Like we're doing this because we would have loved to have this back in the day. But
Right.
it's cool being like we do a good job of it too. And like it's really cool that we're doing something. So I guess pat in the back, but I guess like yeah, like you said, like people like watching us and we do a good job. So shout out to us, I guess.
My
Shout out to us. Shout out to the viewers. Ryan.
Yeah, last thing I'll say is obviously the full season back will finish on Saturday night, I guess, but I'm glad I've been able to be back for almost an entire season and stuff. It's been absolutely incredible being able to come back and do this. Truly is one of the most, things that makes me the happiest and stuff. And even in some of the games that got to go out to this year, but I'm so glad we're going to be able to go down to Waco this weekend, and we'll talk about it more on the episode when it comes out on Thursday. But just really excited to be able to bring what we love to do to everyone in person on Friday and Saturday. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see all y'all there that we'll see in person as well from all 8 schools. So should be a good time.
Absolutely, it should be. I couldn't think of a better note to end the episode on than that. So I will say, this has been the Texas Private School Podcast. I've been one third of your hosting crew. Keep an eye on our state championship preview in your feed on Thursday night. We are so excited to see all you in Waco. Yeah, we'll see you then. See you later.